Ladies and gentlemen, we start today first. She ploughed the waves, the proudest of them all, where now above her ocean grave they crowded big and small, and fling defiance the knight who did this awful deed, where 50 fathoms deep now rests the regal queen of speed. Welcome everyone here today to the 107th year on that fateful day on the sinking of the Lusitania. We have come an awful long way from the initial start here back in the 80s for her 80th year, and this massive monument that's here in front and overlooking the site. Behold the people that put it up and designed it, and the committee here deserve huge praise. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will have the laying of the reeds in the minute, but we'll have a minute silence. So we'll take a minute silence now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now we have, on behalf of Kinsale Lifeboat, we want one person to lay a reed. Yeah, the Old Head Coast Guard will come with two people to lay a reed. And now I call on Dan Lane, the piper, to play the lament. Thank you very much indeed. Now, the first speaker of this historic day today, I call on Mitch Peake, co-founder of the Lusitania Historical Society and author of the Lusitania story. Can I have Mitch Peake, please?
Thank you. I've been made very welcome. It's the first time I've actually been to Ireland, and to come here on such a special day is just amazing. I mean, what is it about this ship that unites people like you, me, people the world over? We've no living memory of it, most of us, no connection to it really, and yet there's something out there, isn't there? For me, it was Captain Turner's story, when I ended up writing his biography, first of all. I was interested as to why there were so many cover-ups going on, why there were so many dark secrets that didn't want to come out into the open. Gradually over the years, we've peeled the layers away and we found what most of it was all about. But we still don't know the final secret of that ship, do we? And Greg Bemis was one of those people that devoted his life to trying to uncover that mystery. My own connection with Greg went back to asking him to write the foreword to a little book I was writing about the Lusitania back in 2000. And we got to do an awful lot of emailing over the last 20 odd years before he sadly passed away. I used to meet him often when he came to London. We'd have a couple of beers at his hotel and discuss what was going on and all the sort of things that was happening in the background and kind of catch up with each other. But there was this lasting mystique of the ship all the time. It's different for everybody, I think. It's amazing what most people, you know, if you say to someone, why are you interested in Lusitania? They come about it in roundabout ways. Some of them are related to people that were on the ship, but there is always that tragedy underneath it all of the lives lost on the ship out there. And that for me is part of the mystique of that ship, without shadow of a doubt. So I'm very pleased to be able to be here at the invitation of Con Hayes over there. He's made me feel very, very welcome, him and his wife. And it's very atmospheric, it's very surreal in a way to actually be here, knowing that if I look out there, she's out there, albeit out of sight, but never out of mind. So I thank everybody who's done such a sterling job with this memorial and this whole project. It's amazing. You know, my own modest efforts were, it's nice to see them, you know, being part of, even if it is a fairly small part of something much larger. And to see that David standing there is absolutely amazing as well. So I would like to just say thank you to everybody who's connected with this project, because you've done an absolute smashing job of keeping a memory alive. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much indeed for coming here and for giving us the details there, Mitch. Now, the second speaker that we have here today is Jackie MacDougall Weiner, granddaughter of Alice Middleton MacDougall, survivor of the disaster. I would like to call Jackie now to say a few words and thank her for coming.
Good afternoon. I stand here today before you at the age of 75, one of the very few people left on earth who actually grew up hearing the story of the Lusitania by a survivor. Most of the time people think that she should be my great-grandmother, but she's my grandma. And she was on the ship, the Lusitania, and told everyone at that time she was 26 years old, went the whole life. Well, we found out about 2 years ago that she lied about her age. She was actually 34 when she was on the ship. I grew up with the story. She was in Detroit, Michigan when I was born. although she didn't have my father until 4 years after the ship sank. My dad was born in 1919. Had she not survived, I would not be here today. So she was an adult when this happened. You would expect somebody to be a younger age, perhaps a child that really wouldn't remember the story. But it became part of my entire life. I would go and visit her with my sister Pam in Walnut Lake, Michigan, and we would get to stay overnight. We would stay on cots that were in her front porch, and she often would wash my hair, sit me in a chair, and start curling my hair with what they used back then, a rag. Anybody ever hear of setting your hair in rags? We don't do anything like that anymore, and basically would take the hair, wrap it around, and go up, around, and curl, tie it in a knot, and when she had the whole head in rags, I would look a little bit like a rag doll. And during that time, as she was setting my hair, she would tell me her experience on the Lusitania. She was English. She had gone to America and had lived with her brothers a couple of years in Seattle, Washington. And her dad died, and ended up that she had to go back to Liverpool, to actually Birkenhead, to try to collect their mother and bring her back to the States with her. But her mom would not go. So she traveled across the United States, and she was actually the very last passenger on the ship. You see, the maid at the hotel was supposed to wake her up at 6 a.m., but that didn't happen. So she slept in. And realizing she did, she ran out to the plank, the gangplank, and was yelling, "Stop, stop!" And so they re-lifted the plank, and she got on. There's so much to the story, of course. She was a second-class passenger, very modest. She was actually a third class and got bumped up to the second class. She was sitting in the dining room at the time that the first torpedo hit. She was sitting with 3 other Irish ladies who came and joined her for dessert. And when they came over from this direction, the one lady looked out of the porthole and she saw land, the green land, and they started singing an Irish song. And then suddenly, they were impacted by the blow of the torpedo. And she said her legs went numb. And it wasn't long before the water started coming into the dining room. She could not walk at that time. She dragged herself up the stairs onto the deck. No life jacket. Hysterical, as everyone else was. A gentleman came up to her, took off his life belt or life jacket, and put it on her. And the wave came up over the bow. They were hanging on to the rail. And the first wave took him over. The second one took her. We found out later who that gentleman was. He did not make it. His name was Alfred Gwynn Vanderbilt. from the Vanderbilt family. The ship went down in 18 minutes. She thought she felt a second torpedo because back then that's what they all assumed. And the suction as the ship was going down so fast drew her to its side, and her head went through an open porthole. And she went down with the ship until it acclimated and the suction released her up to the top. She said it sounded like a horrible orchestra was playing. In fact, they found her with their fingers in her ears because she could not stand the humanity that was happening. The lady next to her was giving birth to a baby and asked her to hold her. And of course, neither of them made it. My grandma went into a coma at that time and was with all of the other poor souls of that voyage who experienced that. She was picked up and thought to be dead. She was put in the morgue and was in there for about a day. Some man came in looking for a relative so he could identify him. And he looked at a ring on my grandma's hands, and he saw her baby finger just twitch a little, and went and told someone. They took her to the medical place that they had at the time. And she laid there for quite a few days before, I think it was 2 days, before she opened her eyes. And when she did, she looked up at the ceiling and she said to the nurse, "This is not my stateroom. Mine didn't have dirty ceilings." She was in the hospital for 3 weeks. Miraculously, she survived without any problems, except one in a woman's point of view, especially a woman of her age. Due to the stress and the suction of going into the porthole, she lost all of her hair. She stayed with her mom for a year or so before she decided to go back with her brothers, because the climate in England was so difficult for her with her extreme case of asthma. Her mother would not go. So she got on a ship again and went back to America. She was there about a year or so, and then all of a sudden she gets word from her mom that there's a gentleman neighbor of hers that has a son in America. His name was George McDougall, and they became pen pals. He lived in Detroit, Michigan. Back and forth they wrote until one day he wrote a letter asking her to marry him. And she went to Detroit, and they were married there. We always say that she survived twice. She survived that tragedy 2 times. Once with the ship going down, and then she survived the morgue. She was very, I wish I could talk to her now as an adult. She died when I was 17 years old, at the age of 83. And she did not waste a minute of her life. We're here today in memorial for and recognition and remembrance of all souls that were on the Lusitania that day. And I'm sure she wondered why she was saved. So she did not waste her life. She became part of the community, and when people were in need, she was there. When they needed a bus route, she would write to the governor. I always say she was a woman before her time, and damn proud of it. She set such an example for me, which I think I'm realizing more now than ever before. When I pass, her memory doesn't pass, but it passes in a different way, because I'm the last person that will remember who she is. And all of a sudden, I have this huge responsibility to share not only her story, but all the souls of the people that experienced that. She would go into the elementary schools and the high schools, and she would take her things in with her and stand there and tell the children her story. Something that I doubt is talked about much in this day and age, when we have so much more history and little time. I have played a character, a historical character, for over 20 years. I was a national park ranger at Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park in California, the largest tree in the world. And I have portrayed the wife of a photographer. And I always thought to myself, why am I doing someone else's relative? I was gifted with her strength and her influence on our lives. I can't even explain. In America, nobody really cares. Last year, about a year ago, well, exactly a year ago, Padre Begley read something I posted on the RMS Lusitania Friends and Researchers Facebook page. I copied a poem that she had written in the year 2015, at the end of the year, about her experience on the Lusitania. And I get a message from Padre asking if he could read it. I couldn't believe that the right person, just by happenstance, read that poem. And when he did, I was thrilled. Of course you can read it. Well, we went a little farther than that. I talked to my children. I have been the keeper, you see, of her things. And my son doesn't have children. My daughter has one child who's planning to go live in Japan. And when I pass, the story passes of her. So I talked to them and I asked, do you mind if I give something of Grandma's to this museum, which I knew nothing about? And they said yes. And so last year, I took this. It's actually a money belt with very small pockets. She must not have had much. That she wore underneath her clothing. So 107 years ago, she was out there on the ship eating lunch with this very money belt around her waist. We know she made it herself. She ended up being a tailor. It has made me think not only of my life and made the difference in my life as far as being connected, trying to do the right thing, being grateful that I'm alive, because if she hadn't survived, I would not be here today. My dad invented the machine that made milk cartons. My son, he retired 8 days ago as a National Park Ranger, 2 times President awarded search and rescue. We have tried. It has been instilled. It's not something they say go do, it just is part of us. So the Lusitania, even though I wasn't there, I think I was. I definitely will always be there in spirit. Yesterday, Padraig, his wife and my partner Ron, went to Cove. And we were able to see what she had been telling me for so many years. And then it didn't hit me right away. Not really until the middle of the night last night. The most impactful thing for me yesterday was when we went to the cemetery where so many of the victims are buried. I can see a single grave site, and it didn't hit me like it did when we went to the site of all these people gathered together, not knowing who any of them are. The ground in front of us was depressed, it was low. And you stand there and you think about it. And you think about them. And how fragile life is for all of us. We don't know when we're going to go. They certainly didn't expect that 18 minutes of their lives. So you had a whole lot more victims than you did survivors. And I don't know about the rest of them. But I do know that there's such a thing as survivor's guilt. And some people will let that take them down. And others will fight to do the best that they possibly can in their lives. She was on a TV show in 1956 in America called This Is Your Life. And if you go onto YouTube, and all you have to put is Lusitania Alice, it will pop up. And you can hear her words, not mine, her words. She was rushed, but she got it. It was a total surprise for her. I was in the back of the studio waiting to go on, but they hadn't finished the show before, and the gentleman called Mr. TV, Milton Berle, had not finished the week before, so they had to finish him up. So I'm not on that show, but I remember it. The doctor was, he was filmed right down the harbor here, and told the story of, they were so very shocked that she survived. You see, because when she went down in the porthole, her whole throat was cut open. They called her Marvel, because they thought it was marvelous that she survived. So what can we do? I cannot believe that all these people are spending so much time and so much energy and doing such a great job of remembering it. This is where the remembrance needs to be. I saw that there was a Liverpool museum, but I'm a historian myself back in the States. I know how it works. So many people will donate and then it goes in the drawer in the back room. I didn't want that. So I trusted the people behind me here and maybe some others around to keep this legacy going. And I think all of us need to think that we have been gifted with life. Do not waste it. Do not wait for someone else to do something. Be that person who has a direction in life. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. You hear so much about, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? Well, your purpose is to do something on purpose, with purpose. Don't go away leaving things undone. Don't be the person that lets everyone else do it. In any group, you will have a group of people and they'll claim, I'm on this, I'm on that. But usually there's only a handful that really do anything. We have that here. People who do. This would not be here without them. It was my dream to come, and I really never thought I'd be here. I hope she's up there and knows that I'm talking about her today. And my dad would be very proud. But the point is, talk is cheap. Do something. What's happening here is there are plans for a large museum, something that is going to honor almost 2,000 souls, whether they survived or did not, whose life were affected. And I haven't realized until just recently that it really affected mine. So this will go back up in the display that has been put together for Alice Middleton McDougall. In the poem she wrote, which can be read upstairs, the last stanza says, "So this is war, dear people. Stay away from it if you can. For with this is nothing, just the greed." I'm getting it kind of wrong. Yes. This is war, dear people. Stay away from it if you can. With it, we gain nothing. 'Tis just the greed of man. Does that not also ring true today? You'll notice on some of the benches, the wooden benches that some of you are sitting on out here, the last stanza of her poem is carved into those benches. We never know what legacies we leave. We don't have to be famous. We must live with integrity. We must do the best we can. We must help others in one way or another achieve dreams. And the dream here is for a new museum. And I hope that I'll be here long enough to come back and see that has happened. Thank you so much for being here today and caring and keeping history alive. Thank you very much.
So thank you there very much indeed, Jackie, and all like that. And there's a couple of more reeds to be laid now, so we'll do a reed from the Kinsale District Local History Society, Padraig Begley. This one here. Now We have a read, Jackie Weiner MacDougall will lay a read on behalf of the Association of Friends and Relations of the RMS Lusitania. Now, just thank you very much, Jackie. Before we close up, just a few statistics there. The Lusitania gross weight was 48,000 tons, 760 feet long, and 68,000 horsepower. She had 4 bronze propellers, each weighing 22 tons, 10 passenger lifts, 5 days from New York to Liverpool. Her captain, William Turner, survived. The inquest was held in Kinsale Courthouse. She could carry 2,300 passengers, and she had a crew of 300 firemen on 4-hour shifts. And believe it or not, she had 4,000 square feet of fire grate, and she consumed 1,000 tons of coal a day with her 25 boilers and 900 of her crew. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming. It's lovely to see you, and what a wonderful display put up here by the committee in the headland overlooking that fateful site on that fateful day on the 7th of May, 1915. Thank you.
That finishes this year's commemoration of the sinking of Lusitania. I'd like to thank Raymond very much for doing his annual job here. Thank the Coast Guard and the lifeboat men, various other people, Tim on the cameras, Mitch Peake having come from London, and particularly, I keep wanting to call her Alice, I don't know why. Jackie from all the way from Oregon, and Ron, who's down there with his Coast Guard, proudly his Coast Guard cap on. Thank you very much, History Society, everybody else. And there's one other person who's facilitated something in particular for this site today. He sat behind me here, a guy called Senan Maloney, don't know where he comes from. But there's a little surprise which may be presented shortly, but very briefly. It's a new artifact for the site here, which we're very, very proud to have, and it's a very important piece. So thank you very much, folks. Thank you. We have an extra surprise for anybody who's still around. John O'Neill, I've been told somebody here has a connection with Detroit, Motor City, Motown, where not Alice, Jackie was brought up. So John O'Neill wants to put a few words with music together. John.
Thanks very much. This is quite a nice picture, but I do the best I can with it. Yeah. In 1847, and famine all around, a man from Bandascappi to Canada he was bound. He settled down in Michigan, where he farmed with his sons, and this is how the story of Henry Ford begins. When Henry was born there, he was a farmer's son, and all too well he knew a farmer's work was never done. He tried to help his father, but always had a dream, one day to let the horses rest and harness a machine. To make and mend machines was Henry's delight. He went as an apprentice to a workshop in Detroit. His father said, "You're crazy, son, for farming's best by far." But Henry had made up his mind to build a motor car. He started to experiment in his spare time at night. 'Twas in a shed in his backyard his first car saw the light. He drove it out one rainy night. His wife, she ran alongside. The neighbours who had laughed at him before knew Henry had arrived. The cars he made, they were unique, so simple, light and strong. They proved to be reliable, and their lifetime it was long. They were so cheap, the common man one could afford, and millions of Americans soon knew the name of Ford. He started their Ford company. It was in 1903, and in 1909 he built the car called the Model T. It swept the world market, so great was its appeal. It was nicknamed the Tin Lizzie, but was made from the finest steel. With fame and success by building Model Ts, he came to visit Old Fair Lane, Cork City by the Lee, to start the first Ford factory outside the USA, to build the Fortune tractor, the first of the day. In industry he was a giant who always showed the way, perfected the assembly line and raised his workers' pay, gave jobs to the disabled as well as to the strong, and when experts said it couldn't be done, he always proved them wrong. So here's to Ballinascarty, and here's to Old Fair Lane. Here's to the man, the true pioneer, whose genius made him fame, who stamped his name in history, and Irish pride restored, the man that put the world on wheels, the man called Henry Ford.
The serendipity of this is my grandfather, George McDougall, was on the assembly line in Ford Motor Company in Detroit for his whole career.
I thought he was going to sing.
It's brilliant to meet you, and absolutely a big thank you for your donation to.
You're more than welcome.
Well,
I'm thrilled that you took it, and she hopefully is looking down and seeing this today. She would be proud, and my dad would be prouder.
and you're delighted to accept it and exhibit it and going to the future, so we'll keep her story alive, and hopefully there'll be future generations will appreciate what we've done. Thank you
so
and
much.
what you've done. Thank you very much.